Gang, it's your boy back with an all new reaction. Today we're listening to Thomas Sowell, The Devastating Legacy of Obama's Presidency, A Point of No Return. Before we get started, how old are you?
19.
What do you think about Barack Obama? Or what do you know about him? Just whatever. You don't gotta
Well, like, as I was growing up, like when he was a president, everybody was like happy as shit. But then when who became president after him?
Donald Trump.
Yeah, after that they started saying different shit, like everything Obama did, Trump was putting his name over it and just shit like that. And over time, like I think a couple years later, people started saying Obama didn't do shit. So it was a lot of things I heard from Obama, but I'm not really into all that political shit, so I don't really look it up or see it all the time like that.
So I remember growing up, and the first election I ever could vote on was Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, and people were talking about how Obama was going to save us.
Yeah.
They made like a Boondocks episode about it, and he was supposed to change the hood, give black people reparations, and he was supposed to be like pretty much Black Jesus, the greatest thing that ever happened to us. And as I got older and really realized this nigga did not do shit for black people. If anything, he made it harder for black people, in my opinion. I think he's one of the worst presidents we ever had. The first thing he did was pass gay marriage. That didn't help black people. That shit's wicked and out of pocket. He did a lot of shit that destroyed the country to this day, I feel like, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He was one of the worst presidents we had up until Joe Biden. If fucking Obama was Michael Jordan, Joe Biden was LeBron. Like, that nigga just came and reinforced all the goofiest shit that he did. And surprisingly enough, he was the vice president.
So wasn't he close friends too?
Yeah, close friend. He was vice president during the Obama era.
Oh,
so he was Obama's right hand man. And I feel like Obama mark on the Democrats is still there. He's still the shadow leader of the party, but I feel like he really destroyed it for black people. And he didn't bring us any closer to where we wanted to be. I feel like he was a pawn in the game to get people to vote for him.
Because everybody thought, like, since this nigga black, he gonna die.
Well, I thought it was gonna change the world because he's the first ever black president, and he was supposed to look out for the people.
I heard he wasn't though. He wasn't the first black president.
No, he was. Oh, and he keep in mind he was talking about who's better, Kanye West or this, and Kendrick Lamar and Ben Simmons. Like, he was supposed to be down for the people. He was cool, the cool type of president. He was one of, I think he was one of the youngest presidents ever, if not the youngest. So he's supposed to be cool, but he didn't do shit. He didn't do shit for the country, but he definitely didn't do shit for quote unquote his own people.
This nigga do anything else or no?
I guess if you gay, like you can get married now, but that's about it. But that's shit wicked.
But then Trump just he just cut that off. Like,
no, you can't. They can't reverse that. That's codified in the Constitution now. But I always say I think gay marriage is wicked. They should have never allowed that shit because it started with gay marriage, and now we're at cutting kids' dicks off, and transitioning kids, drag shows for kids. Like, everything Obama did, even if you don't think it's bad up front, way down the line, shit got horrible. Yeah. But this is Thomas Sowell. He's like a conservative writer and author, and he talks about issues in the black community and how we can get better. So let's see what he has to say about Barack Obama. Gang, we like these type of reactions. I'm so close to 1,000 subs. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share it if you can. Watch the video in the background. I really want to get to 1K subs. Thank you so much. Obama's sweet sounding lies.
If you believe that new plants and factories can dot our landscape, that new energy can power our future, that new schools can provide ladders of opportunity to this nation of dreamers, if you believe in a country where everyone gets a fair shot and everyone does their fair share and everyone plays by the same rules, then I need you to vote this November.
All right, new plants and factories, new energy, new schools, and a fair shot. What's wrong with that?
I wonder if the fair shot includes the taxpayers. But we've had factories before there was Barack Obama. Hard as that is to believe, and we've had less of it since he came in.
Okay, Tom. So let me ask this question, which is politically incorrect, which makes it all the more important to ask. Some component of the voting public voted for him last time around as an act of national expiation because they felt, and I frankly I could feel it myself. We were all proud, even those of us who supported the opponent, all felt proud the following day that the United States of America, the Constitution takes slavery into account, the Civil War, but finally we have a black man as President of the United States. All right, That's perfectly understandable. We know that took place. 4 years later, what about the argument that it is so important for him to get this right, so important as a continuation of this national act of expiation and healing and so forth, that in some way it's only right to give him, frankly, more slack than you might.
Affirmative action for president.
Well, there you go. I suppose that's what it amounts to. I guess you don't buy that one.
Well, when you realize that the President of the United States has the lives of 300 million people in his hands, he has the future of Western civilization in his hands. He has the freedom that's been inherited over the centuries in his hands, and he's already starting to dismantle that. I really don't think it's a question of any individual, whoever's in the White House, being cut any slack. The last thing you need to do is cut.
See, this is the thing I don't like about the whole Barack Obama thing too. Like they were saying, they held him to a different standard. For instance, when you hear about Trump deporting people, they say that shit racist, right? So they don't talk about this. Though Obama deported more Mexicans than anybody ever. He deported 3 million Mexicans. They call him the deporter in chief, but you never hear about that shit.
Yeah, I ain't never heard about that shit ever.
Nobody deported more people than Barack. To this day, we're right now 2025. Nobody has ever deported more people than Barack Obama in modern president history. But they never talk about it. But when Trump does, this shit is racist.
So do you think it's like hard to be president because like anything you do, people gonna have like backflash or like you gonna have haters against it?
Yeah, it's hard, but I think Barack Obama almost had it easier because since he was black, he could hide behind the show. Oh, I didn't do nothing wrong this because I'm black type shit. So that's what I think. But I think honestly, that who had the hardest? I think Donald Trump had the hardest.
Yeah, everybody been talking about nigga try to kill him.
They tried to kill him. They was going around with the statue. Remember they had the statue of him butt naked. They was going around with his shit. Oh yeah, they. So they tried to assassinate him multiple times. They hacked his phone. They tried to send him to jail. They tried to get him on like some type of rape charge. Like they was trying to do Trump ultra dirty. So
Cut slack to people who have power over 300 million other people.
Tom Sowell this past summer, quote, "The America that has flourished for more than 2 centuries is being quietly but steadily dismantled by the Obama administration," close quote. Now you note the way the Obama administration has used executive orders to waive provisions of the No Child Left Behind Act and to repeal, your word, the legal requirement that welfare recipients must work. He's the president, Tom.
When
Doesn't
he
get to make adjustments
when
in
he
this
mean
law.
about like no child left behind, they mean like no matter how bad your grades is and shit. So like, oh, that's how I pass.
that shit was stupid.
I got all F's in 2nd grade. I still want to pass it. I'm like, how the fuck?
That's why you fucking dumb now.
What the fuck? That was because the school's comedies.
That's why you fucking dumb now.
For that long.
But see, this is the thing. That don't help niggas. They should have keep it being. They should have failed you.
Yeah.
It would have helped you more.
Got failed too.
That's what I'm saying. It would have helped you more. But some of that was George Bush as well. But they should have failed the shit out you, and you would have learned instead of forcing you through. Because it doesn't do shit. They passed this girl, and she's suing them now. She's made in college, who literally can't read and write, and they passed her a fucking honor roll. And now she's in college. She has to use Siri to kind of answer the questions and shit, and because she can't read or write. This shit helps nobody, and that's why Donald Trump wants to defund the Department of Education, because they make more money if you do bad on tests and they just force you through. They make more money in inner city schools than anywhere else.
So the kids graduate. That's how they make more. That's how they make their money.
Yes, they make more money. But if you got low test scores, they send more resources to the school. Somebody was talking about it. Some black men that work in schools, like if you go to like an inner city school and everybody's failing, they get more money from the government. The way the Department of Education is set up and the way all the rules are set up, you do better if you fail.
Well, the oath that he took of office was that he would faithfully execute the laws. Now, I don't think they meant to execute in the same way that the mafia means it.
Thomas Sowell on Obamacare. Quote, "Obamacare imposes huge costs on some institutions, while the president's waivers exempt other institutions from having to pay those same costs. The law says you've got to do this, and over here we have the Secretary of Health and Human Services granting a waiver to this person or that entity, or this waiver's taking place over here." Well, it's legal. Nobody seems to have sued them for that.
One of the great problems is that people do not react. I mean, when all is said and done, the Constitution of the United States is a set of words on pieces of paper. The only way that the Constitution can protect us is if we protect the Constitution. If we rise up and revolt, if we vote out of office people who violate the Constitution, then of course it will mean something. If people can do this, say a few pretty words, and we say, oh well, then the Constitution will, over time, erode to the point where it will mean absolutely nothing. There'll be nice words on paper, but people with power will just do what they feel like.
What about those 9 people in black robes who sit on the bench across the street?
I want to say something because there's something they're not going to bring it up. The Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, that shit was trash. It made health insurance super expensive. I tried to sign up for that shit one time. I think for 1 month it was like $700 for health insurance. So every month you had to pay that shit. It was trash. And then it was also like Keith, right? So Keith worked part-time at Walmart. So he didn't qualify for insurance through his company. And he couldn't afford insurance through Affordable Care Act. The way Obama passed the law, if you didn't have insurance, you got fined when you paid your taxes. So you end up owing back taxes. It punished a lot of people for being poor and shit. So the Affordable Care Act was trash.
From the United States Capitol. Isn't it the job of the Supreme Court of the United States to defend the Constitution?
It is, but they alone can't do it. And more importantly, if Obama gets reelected, he's probably going to have 1 or maybe 2 more members to appoint. And from that point on, it will just be a rubber stamp for whatever he chooses to do.
To the economy, Tom Sowell, quote, "We are not yet Greece, but we are not exempt from the rules of arithmetic that caught up with Greece. We have just a little more time," close quote. So what's going to go wrong? Let's assume Barack Obama, for the moment, let's assume Barack Obama wins re-election. What bad things happen?
For one thing, we start running out of money. And that's the problem of Greece. See, the secret of the welfare state is you can do almost anything in the short run, juggling money from here to there and so on. But in the long run, the arithmetic can't be ignored. And in the long run, you're going to run out of money, which is what's happening in Greece, which is starting to happen in Spain, and which can happen in the United States.
So you're an optimist. That is to say, the welfare state, against which you have devoted enormous professional energies over these several decades now, is about to come to an end, one way or the other.
That's right, but it makes a difference how it comes to an end.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying. What feels different? I mean, look, we have 8 point something or other percent unemployment. As a matter of fact, if the same number of people were still in the workforce as were when President Obama took office, the unemployment rate would be 11%. The economy is really bad.
Yeah.
But by historical standards, it's still a wealthy country.
Yeah.
People can get by. Journalists are already defining the state of affairs as the new normal. So really, 4 more years of Barack Obama does what to us? We can skate by, Tom.
The question is, how long can you skate?
It's crazy watching it now, knowing what we know now, because this had to be more. This probably was like in 2008. So this was a long ass time ago, maybe like 2010ish.
So this is like before the election?
This is he got elected in 2008. Then in 2011 or 2012 he got re-elected. So this is before the second election. But seeing him talk about the economy, because I feel like now, like at the end of 2024, what he said came true. It finally hit. The Barack Obama Biden economy finally hit, where eggs, gas, and all this shit was super expensive. The only reason the government even functioned was because the government was like, creating fake jobs, pumping money into the economy. They was moving numbers around. We went into a fucking recession, but they wouldn't admit it. They was doing all this trickery and shit to make the economy not fall. But now that Trump's in and Trump's not doing all the bullshit, we're going to end up hitting a recession for a little bit until they actually can fix the economy. Because we're $30 trillion plus in debt, and the way we were operating under Obama and Biden with all the spending, it had to come to an end.
Them niggas made us lose money.
Oh yeah, no, the way they were spending, the way they were sending money overseas and all this bullshit. Oh, for sure.
So it was helping other countries out, but
Well,
it wasn't helping.
They weren't putting America first. They weren't putting America first. They were too concerned with helping all these foreign countries. They had us doing all this weird shit. We used to like prioritize like drilling for oil and getting gas shit like that. Barack Obama was the first person to try to like lower our carbon footprint and try to move us to electric. That's why gas got so high. Then Biden, he closed down some of the pipelines. They mandated that every car had to be electric by like 2035. They started moving, and that made gas more and more expensive. Trump rolled that back a lot of that shit. That's why gas went down. But even in California, that's super like Democrat. I think by 2020, I think by 2030, all cars got to be electric or some shit like that. So they were pushing this clean energy shit super crazy, and that fucked it up for the everyday person who can't afford
So you think if you
electric vehicles.
You think if you do run for president again and get election?
Well, you can't. You only can run twice.
Oh shit! All right. Good.
So what Barack Obama tried to do, since he can't run anymore, he's kind of in the era of like a Joe Biden, in the era of Kamala Harris. He's behind the scenes when it comes to the Democrat Party, telling them what to do, telling them how to move. Like, he the one that really put Hillary Clinton up when the whole party wanted Bernie Sanders. So he still runs shit, believe it or not.
Greece discovered that there does come a point where there is no more money. Like in Spain, people are already leaving Spain in drove and taking their money out of the Spanish banks with them. One of the things that you can do in the long run, and be forced to do, is simply print more money. And as they print more money, that is simply a hidden form of taxation. I mean, when the Federal Reserve creates money to buy government bonds and keeps the interest rate low in order to make the price of the debt service low, what that means is that if you have your money put aside in the bank and you're getting 1% and the inflation rate is 3%, that means they're taking 2% of your savings every single year, and you know how compound interest is.
Right.
And even under the current conditions, and a $100 bill in 1998 would not buy as much as a $20 bill would have bought in 1960.
Crazy.
So the thievery that goes on through inflation is huge. The Republicans, I think, have a notion that because so many people are unemployed and on food stamps, that is a negative for Obama. Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected in a landslide after having an unemployment rate higher than Obama's. There was not a single month in the first term of Franklin D. Roosevelt when unemployment was not in double digits. And in a number of months, the unemployment was over 20%.
God.
And he won the biggest landslide in American history. So people who think that the economy is the key, that you can't win if your unemployment is 8%, forget it.
Shortly before the Obama administration took office, the man who would become President Obama's chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, said, quote, "You never want a serious crisis to go to waste," close quote. Why do you find that significant?
Because it means that the crisis is presenting them with an opportunity to do things they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And that's how he sees it. And everything that has happened since the new administration indicates that that's how the administration as a whole sees it.
So the crisis is providing an opportunity for President Obama and his supporters to do what they would have liked to do,
yes,
but would otherwise have been unable to.
Just as in the case of the New Deal, that the New Dealers, most of the key people in the New Deal, were for big government intervention long before there was a stock market crash. It's just that the stock market crash gave them an opportunity to step in. It's another parallel is that people are talking about all these highly intelligent people with whom the president has surrounded himself. In Washington, FDR surrounded himself with highly intelligent people. That is no guarantee of anything, except brilliant rationalizations for failure in some cases.
Okay. Let me push back a little bit, Tom. When President Obama took office, the financial system appeared close to
I wanted to say this because they're not going to mention it. Obama wasn't the only person that used it. They talking about using the crisis to pass like legislation and shit. Back when 9/11 happened, George Bush and everybody in power at that point, they used that shit, one, to run on, and two, to spy on people. Now, and that's why they can spy on like your phone, your messages and shit like that, because they passed the Patriot Act. Like, if you go on the phone right now and say something crazy, like, I want to harm whatever government official, or I got a bomb or some shit, these niggas come into your crib because they're allowed to spy on you now. Back before 2001, they couldn't do that shit. And they used the crisis of 9/11 to one. You've been on a flight before, right?
Yeah.
You know how it's TSA checking your bags and all that shit? Back in the day, you could just walk on the flight. You did not have none of that shit. You could just buy a ticket without an ID.
Now they scan your whole
body. And they scan your whole body, your whole bag.
X-ray and shit.
They do all this shit, and they do all this shit, and they screen people. Before 9/11, you could just get on a flight. You didn't have to do that shit. You could bring anything you want on a flight. But they used 9/11 as a way to spy on.
Basically use it as an excuse to spy on people.
The overreach. So now the government, they can spy on your phone calls, your text messages, all this other shit almost without a warrant. They changed all the laws. They put TSA in. and invading people's privacy.
I know I saw something that says like the cameras that be outside like in the street and shit.
They can tap into it. It used to be the same. We used to call it Big Brother. Like Big Brother's always watching. I mean, they could tap into anything and record you. And the government didn't used to have the authority to do that. The only people that ever did that shit to back then was like the mafia. Like you had to be on some crazy shit for the government to spy on you. But now,
like the FBI.
Yeah, I'm saying FBI get on. Yeah, they get. But now they're spying on the average person. And when Edward Snowden said he was spying on niggas' phones, and he was a part of NSA and all that shit. He on a run for that shit. He been on a run for like 10 years because he exposed. They're tapping into regular niggas' phone calls, just hearing what niggas gotta say. And if you say the wrong shit, them niggas come to your crib and they lock you the fuck up. So it wasn't just Barack Obama that used that shit, used crisis to pass shit the government.
So was he like the main person to use it or no?
I think it was pivotal when he did it, but I can think of George Bush doing that shit. I can think of Biden doing that shit too.
Serious economists, including our colleague at the Hoover Institution, Robert Barrow, wrote that there was a significant chance of not just recession but depression.
I apologize for pausing again. Every time that there's like a mass shooting or something, somebody in the government come out, oh, we need to ban all guns. Kamala Harris was trying to do that shit. They would use like people dying and shit like that to try to hurry up and pass
like excuses
so they could take away guns and shit, even though it's your right. Every time there's some type of shooting or tragedy, that's one thing the Democrats pull out their back pocket. Like, oh yeah, we need to ban these guns. We need to do a gun buyback. So you'll see shit like that if you start paying attention to politics.
Depression. And today we've got a financial system that's functioning. Housing prices are settling rather than crashing. And there seems to be a general consensus that we'll see a recovery within a year to 18 months. So why not take President Obama at his word and simply impute to him the motives that he claims? He came into office, passed a stimulus bill and a raft of other measures because of the financial crisis demanded that he do so, and it seems to have worked.
Well, I'm not as optimistic in predicting how things are going to be wonderful in a couple of years, but we'll know more in a couple of years.
You still alive?
I think
if
so.
you look at the stimulus package, the one thing it has not done is stimulate. Prior to the bailout money for the banks were lending a certain amount. After the bailout money, the banks were lending less. The stimulus means that he's not depending just on the government's own money being spent producing the result, that this will stimulate others in the economy. It is not. The circulation of money, the speed with which money circulates in the economy, fell to the lowest level in 50 years. It fell during...
After the stimulus?
Yes. Business reduced its investment by like 25 or more %. So that if you're looking in terms of what actually happens rather than the words that are used, what actually has happened shows no such stimulation as they're talking about.
So what he's talking about is, and I think we've still been living on this economy to very recently, in 2008-ish, around that time, the stock market crashed, a bunch of businesses crashed, so like GM, all these banks, all this shit, because it was Ponzi schemes going on, they were lending a lot of bullshit money, the housing market crashed, so the bubble popped. So majority of the businesses in America was going out of business, like they were going to file for bankruptcy.
Like
so
that's how part of your city got closed down, some shit?
So imagine that, but a bank.
Oh, banks. Oh.
So banks were going out of fucking business. Yeah. So what Obama did, car companies and all that shit. So what Obama did to quote unquote save us was he bailed them out. He gave all the banks, car companies, he even gave Tesla money. That's why I'm surprised people are like, oh, Trump and Elon. Obama bailed out fucking Tesla. He bailed out all these companies with government money and loans. Some of them paid it back, some of them didn't. So the companies could stay afloat. But him doing that, it caused a lot of inflation.
So basically, he was giving money out to big companies,
big companies,
but not giving it to the people though.
Correct. So the banks and shit got bailed. We never got bailed out. Yeah. So if you was to go broke tomorrow, they come taking your car, they come taking all the shit. They don't give a fuck. If you owe taxes, you gonna fuck to jail. But the big companies, Obama said he was too big to fail, and he gave them money, and that kind of fucked the economy up.
Was Tesla big back then? Wasn't it?
No, but Obama wanted to go to because they were going out of business. But Obama wanted to like focus on like electric and move away from gas, so he gave them a 5-year loan they paid back early, and he gave them more money. Most of the government contracts people don't talk about, they swear Trump gave to him. Joe Biden and Barack Obama gave Elon a bunch of fucking money. They gave a bunch of banks and all this shit.
That's how his network got like so high.
Oh yeah, but they gave a lot of big corporations and businesses all this fucking money was zero interest or very low return fees and shit like that, and that's why the corporations love Barack Obama, but they'll never bail out a 9-to-5 person.
Barack Obama, during the same debate, if a woman is out there trying to raise a family,
My fault. With the stimulus checks, who gave those out? Trump?
It was a mixture of Trump and the Congress, was a Republican and senator. So they wanted to help us out during the COVID. But that should save people, because when you give people stimulus checks and PPP loans, shit like that, they put it back into the economy. When you bail a business out, they're not obligated to spend any of that shit on anything outside of payroll or helping people out. So when they give us money, you know what everything did? People went on vacation, people spend that shit, people put that shit back in the economy, and it helped the economy out. I do think it did cause a little bit of inflation in the long term, but he did what needed to be done, and it helped a lot of people pay for food, rent, and shit like that. The laws they were passing during that time actually helped people out somewhat. So
you think Obama would have did it, he'd probably be like more liked?
I think so, because I think bailing out corporations is crazy work.
I feel like bailing out your own people, as the president,
Trump always had this mindset of helping niggas in America first, helping out people in America, and that's why they hate him so much, because he's not worried about these other countries. Just like the shit going on in Ukraine, he like, y'all got to sign a peace treaty, or we're not giving y'all no more money. We're not fighting no wars for Trump. Has always paid people first when other politicians.
People be mad at that, but he don't give a fuck. Like, I'm doing what's best.
He gonna do what's best for the people, and a lot of people can't understand that.
And to support her family and is being treated unfairly, then the court has to stand up if nobody else will, and that's the kind of judge I want.
That's unconstrained. That somehow or other there are people with the traditional robes on who can just decide these things ad hoc, which among other things would mean we would no longer really have law. You would discover, once you got into the courtroom in front of the judge, you would then discover what the decision is, but you'd have no clue beforehand.
So that would, a full embrace of the unconstrained vision, which Barack Obama seems intent on, would overturn the fundamental basis of American law, which is a nation of laws, not of men.
Absolutely.
It would be a nation of men, of judges.
Yes.
September of this year, the Rasmussen Polling Company asked this question: should the Supreme Court make decisions based on what's written in the Constitution and legal precedents, or should it be guided mostly by a sense of fairness and justice? Close quote. 82% of McCain supporters said the Supreme Court should base its decisions on the Constitution. 29% of Obama supporters agree. 11% of McCain supporters said the Supreme Court should make its decisions on fairness. 49% of Obama supporters said that it should. Now, here's the question. You've said McCain constrained, Obama unconstrained. But what this would seem to indicate, this polling data, that this is not just a debate taking place among politicians or American elites. It's reached very deep into the American public.
Absolutely.
49% of Americans think that the Supreme Court
of Obama supporters.
49% of Obama supporters, exactly, say so does that startle you? Does it alarm you?
It doesn't startle me, it depresses me. But, this has been going on for a long time. People complain about a court decision on the basis that they wish it had turned out differently. But that isn't the judge's job. There was a wonderful case, I wish I could remember the title.
Obama did something else that kind of fucked it up. He kind of fucked up the way the government works too. So the Supreme Court job is, when a case comes in front of them, to decide if it's constitutional or not, like is the government allowed to do it. But what Obama did was he appointed the justices that he wanted, and then they would send cases to him, and they would instead of going off the Constitution, they would kind of just go off how they feel or what they thought was just and shit like that. So for instance, with the gay marriage shit, okay, it was never intended to allow gay people to get married in America. That was never considered a right for gay people historically throughout the world. It wasn't. But when Obama appointed the justices, and they were all like real liberal and left, and they thought it was fair, they don't give a fuck what the Constitution said or what the historical precedent was for it. They just went off their feelings. So now in the country, they don't even really, in our country, we don't really go off the Constitution anymore. Whoever the president is, he appoints Supreme Court justices, and they just kind of go off if they're Republican or they're Democrat and what they want to do, in my opinion. So, okay, the abortion shit. When abortion was ruled on for the first time, where Roe v. Wade and all that shit, You don't have a right to abortion. When the Constitution was written, the right to privacy had nothing to do with abortion, but the way the justice interpreted it, it gave people the right to abortion, so it was bullshit. To begin with, Trump appointed some people. They overturned it, but they overturned it correctly because you don't have a right to abortion. That's just something the Constitution doesn't protect. But now the justice just interpret the Constitution wherever they want, wherever they spit out. Then people make laws on it. Then they die. Somebody's gonna get appointed, and the same shit's just gonna happen.
So like, do they count abortion as like murder or some shit?
No. So what happened before was abortion pretty much, was banned throughout every country. I mean, throughout every single state. Some states had a little bit different laws, but you pretty much couldn't get an abortion, or it was like only emergency abortions. It depend on the state or whatever.
So it don't depend on the situation either.
Well, it did. Like that played a role into it. And then they sent They sent multiple women, which was bullshit. Lawyers sent multiple women in there. They made up stories. They lied about getting raped and all this other shit. Took to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said what their interpretation of the Constitution was: you had a right to privacy. So you had a right to abortion. Even though I don't understand how you have a right to privacy mean you can just kill your baby. That's crazy to me. And they went with that until Trump finally overturned it.
I love it, which Clarence Thomas said that he really agreed with the position taken by one of the litigants in the case, but that he wasn't there to decide that issue. He was there to decide what did the law say. And the law said otherwise, and so he voted against it. You see the same thing in Oliver Wendell Holmes, where in a number of cases he makes very cutting disparagements of one of the litigants in the case, and then votes in favor of him because I'm not here to decide what the merit.
That's what they should do. They should. What does the Constitution say? But that's not a thing anymore, unfortunately.
One of his decisions, he said, "I am not at liberty to discuss the justice of the act. The act is what it is." And once I know what that is, that's the decision that I have to make.
Well then, if you see, one more question here. You write, the unconstrained vision, again I'm quoting you, has tended historically toward creating more equalized economic and social conditions in society, even if the means chosen imply great inequality in the right to decide such issues and choose such means, close quote. Inequality in the right to decide issues. Does that tell us why the left in the United States seems so much more comfortable with having courts make social policy? That's what's going on.
Absolutely. That they want equality of outcomes, and they will choose how to make the outcomes equal. But they don't want equality of choice on the part of the people themselves. Many of the liberals say that they're for the family because they're for creating all kinds of goodies to give to families, but they want to take away the family's fundamental function, which is making decisions for members of the family itself, particularly the younger.
And you see that today where they try to, like a lot of the people in California, Democrats, shit like that. Now they pass laws like if your kid like gay or transsexual, the kid don't even gotta tell you. The school don't even gotta tell you. They pass shit in like California where like if your kid gay or something and they want to get like surgery and you don't let them, that's child abuse. They'll take your kid away from you.
The fuck?
Yeah. No, shit's getting weird in Cali, but that's where we're leaning to, all this weird transsexual shit, and it started with Obama.
We have members who aren't yet grown. Obama has an absolute talent for saying things that make no sense, but not only sound plausible, but inspiring. You know, we're subsidizing the oil companies when they deduct the cost of doing business in order to arrive at the figure of how much net income they have. Everybody does that.
Right. So this notion, though, that if you're rich, you ought to pay more. Straightforward enough, no?
It is straightforward, but it's also straightforward nonsense.
Why is that?
People don't. They often speak of people who are rich as people who happen to have money.
Right.
Extremely few people happen to have money.
There aren't that many Rockefellers.
But Rockefeller didn't happen to have money.
But his heirs happen to have it.
The heirs happen to have money. So you go, Rockefeller reduced the cost of oil to a fraction of what it had been before him, benefiting millions of people across the country. Therefore, they bought their oil from Rockefeller rather than from people who had more expensive ways of producing oil, and for example, one of them being the use of tank cars on the railroads. The progressives were livid that Rockefeller could could ship his oil at a cheaper price than the other producers. It never occurred to them that Rockefeller shipped his oil in tank cars, which are a hell of a lot cheaper to transport than in barrels. I mean, we still measure oil in barrels today, but we ship it in tankers.
Right.
And that's how he became a multi-billionaire.
So we know from the study of economic history that wealthy people get wealthy by creating jobs, lowering prices of
Yes.
products, rather than Bill Gates, the richest man in America, one of the richest men in the world.
It's just so old now. Cause Elon's the richest. Then I think it's Jeff Bezos. Some other people. I think Bill Gates like number 6 or something now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like since Bill Gates came up in that computer.com era with microchips shit like that.
And when it first was
Really booming, and he was behind it. But then the next wave was kind of like the websites, and that's when Mark Zuckerberg went crazy with Facebook and Facebook ads and shit. And then Elon, he did the whole electric wave, got all the government contracts. Elon was behind PayPal too, so Elon did a lot of shit.
Basically, if Obama would never give Elon that bread, that nigga would have never be where
He'd still be rich. So this is my thing, and we can talk about a different video. I don't really like. I'm not an Elon supporter. I'm not an Elon hater. I think what he's doing for America with Doge is great. Like the thing where we spend our money. But I was always that person. I was never into electric cars because I feel like the only way electric cars even make money or they do well is because the government forces it. Like if you buy an electric car, depending on the car, you get like $7,500 off of the car. You get like a tax incentive. You get all this crazy shit to buy an electric car because the government wanted you to buy an electric car. They was trying to force it on people. They made it so hard for people to buy gas cars with the emissions and the CO2 shit. That's why they stopped making Hellcats and they made the Chargers and shit electric because the government was kind of forcing them. So I don't like that. You should let people buy what they want to buy instead of trying to force them to buy electric cars.
That's why I better be seeing cars that come with keys, any keys and shit, or no.
Well, so the few things government forced was they forced backup cameras on cars, which I thought was dope because now every car got backup cameras. But they also made it so you couldn't have like V8, because back then you used to have like V8s, V10s, V12s. You just couldn't have cars with fucking huge ass engines and it could be designed whatever way. But the government put all these strict emissions standards, safety standards, and all the other shit, and that's why cars are starting to be all electric and shit.
Invented an entire industry that simply didn't. All right, we know all that, and we also know, as we mentioned earlier, that cutting taxes worked to spur economic growth in the 20s.
Yes, sir.
Again, under John Kennedy in the 60s. Actually, it was Johnson who ended up. Most of the tax cuts took place. Let's call it under the 60s, and then again in Ronald Reagan and
then George W. Bush.
And George W. Bush. So how is it that he can stand there in the face of this overwhelming evidence and be taken seriously? I'm not asking now about Barack Obama as an intellectual. I'm asking about the people listening to him.
That's the question of the hour. You have people who don't stop and think. You've had dumbed-down education. You've had propagandistic education. And people, what he's saying connects with all those kinds of things.
All right.
In fact, it goes the other way too. I was just doing some research on Detroit and its decline, and they kept raising the city income tax. And every time they raised the tax rate,
Same shit. That's why I moved to Philly. Same shit happened in Philly. So remember they put the soda tax. So you're talking about something like soda or anything sweet, like it's like expensive in the city. That was supposed to go towards schools. It didn't go towards school. It closed my high school, which is West Philly High. They closed Bach. They closed all these high schools. It didn't go towards the school. They put tax on all this shit, saying it was going to help the people, and it didn't. The local government just stole the money, and there's all this money unaccounted for. When in reality, if you really want to help people, especially like that's in a poor area, you lower taxes, you give more tax incentives and shit like that. You don't raise taxes. Because anytime they say tax about to go somewhere good, little fuckers not. Oh, we gonna put tax on cigarettes? Like then
So like if Trump wanna like lower the sodas and sweets, and
well, so Trump is not. He's at the federal level, so he can do shit at the federal level to help people. Because for instance, I used to work at Comcast. He gave them a tax cut and they gave us a bonus because they got a tax cut. On the local level, he can't do shit to make it cheaper in Philadelphia. Because it's on our mayor, our local officials. But the reason Philly's so high to live in is because them raising all these fucking taxes.
tax revenues went down. In 2008, Charles Gibson put this to Obama when he was a candidate. He said, why are you for raising the tax rate on the rich? Because you often get more revenue at lower tax rates than at the higher tax rates. And he said, well, it's a question of social justice. In other words, he doesn't really care about whether the government raises more revenues. If he can get people mad at the rich and they vote for him, then then it's a success. Just as Coleman Young's policies in Detroit were a great political success for him. It ruined Detroit, but it didn't.
You and I have to be reading on a similar subject. From 1950 to the present, two things happened. One was that the population of the United States of America roughly doubled, and the other was that the population of Detroit fell by roughly half.
Yes.
Unbelievable. All right. Barack Obama, in August of last year, quote, "In the first 100 days of my administration, I will travel to a major Islamic forum and deliver an address to redefine our struggle. I will make clear that we will stand with those who are willing to stand up for their future and that we need their efforts to defeat the prophets of hate and violence." Close quote. What do you make of those two?
I think Barack Obama has a lot more faith in verbal interactions than I would. So what he's proposing under the guise of change is what has been tried for 2 decades between the two world wars, and which failed disastrously in helping to bring on the Second World War.
Barack Obama's plan for defense spending as of last year, I'm quoting the speech, "I'll stop spending $9 billion a month in Iraq. I will cut tens of billions in wasteful spending. I will cut investments in unproven missile defense systems. I will not weaponize space. I will slow our development of future combat systems, and I will institute an independent defense priorities board to avoid unnecessary spending." Close quote.
Well,
That's hilarious.
Capping.
Well, he was capping, but literally Donald Trump said the same shit. He's gonna stop spending. He's gonna get us out of war with Ukraine. And all this other stuff, and they called him racist and said he was destroying the country for that. When Barack Obama said the same shit, he won in a record landslide. So that shows you,
So people just trying to force themselves to hate Trump.
That's what I'm saying. Because Trump said he's gonna stop unnecessary spending. He's gonna get us out of wars and shit like that. Yeah. Oh, he loves Vladimir Putin. He's scared of Russia. Obama said the same shit, and they was ready to deep throat him. So shit's wild. Hold on.
30s. There were people who were saying Britain should not, but the British Labour Party in the early to mid-30s voted consistently against defense spending, and they argued that our security does not depend on armaments, but on disarmaments. And so when Chamberlain went to Munich to talk to Hitler, it wasn't just his own party, the conservatives, who applauded him when he came back. It was the Labour and liberals as well. He was probably the most lionized man among Western leaders, perhaps, of the past century.
You mentioned I think you would call it a naive view of world affairs, that he places a great deal of faith in rhetoric, the ability of rhetoric to solve global problems. This reminds you of the 1930s. It reminds you of Neville Chamberlain. I read you a quotation of the notion of spreading the wealth around, and again you said that's perfectly pure socialist doctrine from the 1930s. Would you argue that this man is the most left-wing, or the purest embrace of the unconstrained vision that we've seen in American politics since when? Since the New Deal?
Since American politics.
Really?
Yes. I mean, even FDR, pulled back on some things, but Obama really he does have the unconstrained vision, which is really an elitist vision. It says, I know what is the best to be done, and I will do it. When he says, I will change the world, you realize this is a man who has actually accomplished nothing other than advancing his career through rhetoric. And it reminds me of a sophomore in college, who thinks that he can run the world because he's never had to run anything. And you can believe that only until you have personal responsibility for consequences, and that's when it gives you a little bit of humility.
Why don't the American people see through that? Isn't that the fundamental bet that the founders made? That that voters would see through, ultimately they'd see through nonsense?
Yes, but that was before nonsense became a large part of the curriculum of our educational institution.
I think people can't see through it because they're brainwashed by the media, and the media tells you people like Kamala Harris, Biden, whatever, they're good guys. They're fighting against racism.
Yeah, I was seeing all the time. That's why everybody was kind of mad with Trump won against Harris and shit.
Yeah.
But then after, that's when they started speaking out, saying what she was doing and shit.
Bro, because they talking about how extreme Obama was at the time. Kamala Harris might have been 10 times more extreme. Same with Joe Biden with this. She wanted to give sex changes to illegal immigrants. All types, like this shit she's out her own mouth. All types of weird, bizarro shit. She wanted to force people to buy back guns, you know, on the AR, on the AK, all this other shit. That how the fuck are you gonna come take our guns? Like the shit they was saying, it only get worse. And they got this type of thing where at first they try to act like it's all friendly, but if you don't give your guns back, if you don't think the way they want you to think, they're gonna lock you the fuck up.
I feel like the way they were saying it, they were trying to say like in a smart way. They were using like big words and shit. And people would say that, well, that makes sense. They said that, but I feel like Trump is really saying what he going to fucking do. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going
But this is the thing. If you don't agree with them, you know what they're going to say? Oh, you dumb. You uneducated. You don't know. Then they try to talk down to you and shit.
I was talking about this with a colleague of ours the other day, Tom McCurdy, who's an economist here at the Hoover Institution, and Tom said, well, remember what happened when Bill Clinton became president. His point is the American people are about to get an extreme illustration of the way government intervention messes things up. Mm-hmm. Bill Clinton offered only a mild illustration, and yet even under Bill Clinton, it was only 2 years before there was enough of a backlash response that Republicans took both houses of Congress away, and the man was boxed in from that point forward. That's a pretty optimistic reading of what might happen. In fact, very optimistic.
Yes, because there is such a thing as a point of no return, and if in those first 2 years Iran gets nuclear weapons, we will be at that point of no return, and the next generation will live under that same threat and as far out as the eye can see. And so sometimes people will very clever, say it's just as well to let these guys get in there and discredit themselves. Right. Then we'll win in the backlash. People said that when Hitler was arising in Germany, and many of those people who said that died in the concentration camps. Which is a smaller tragedy than a nation dying in a sense.
Before the primaries had ended, you wrote, Hillary Clinton versus John McCain. I wouldn't know whether to vote Libertarian or move to Australia. Now we know it's Barack Obama versus John McCain. You'll vote for John McCain but hold your nose? What's your fundamental...
Yes, the difference is that the Clintons had the saving grace of utter lack of principle, which meant that when they saw which way the political winds were blowing, that's the way they go, regardless of what they've been saying before. This man has been a far-left ideologue for 20 years. And not just a matter of ideology. I mean, people who are truly vile people. We're not talking about just people who have a certain theory. Acorn, I'm talking thuggery as the way to get your ideas across. Father Flagel, you go down the list. I judge people by what they've done, not by what they say. Particularly when what they say is the direct opposite of what they've done. Mm-hmm. So that, no, I think this man really does believe that he can change the world. And people like that are infinitely more dangerous than mere crooked politicians.
If the current polls hold, the Wall Street Journal, I'm quoting Wall Street Journal now, declared in an editorial last week, Barack Obama will win the White House on November 4th, and Democrats will consolidate their congressional majorities. Though we doubt most Americans realize it, the journal continues, this would be one of the most profound political and ideological shifts in U.S. history, close quote. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And the repercussions extend, the fact that they were able to create disasters in the economy, I think will pale by comparison to what they will do in terms of countries acquiring nuclear weapons and turning those over to terrorists. Which is the point of no return once that happens.
Right. I was talking about this with a colleague.
But a lot of the stuff he predicted came through. There's only 2 minutes left. We'll finish it off. But something he doesn't mention, after Obama got elected, that's when you really see the era of like people being woke, the Black Lives Matter, all that type of social justice, Antifa, bullshit going on.
You got ours the other day, Tom McCurdy, who's an economist here at the Hoover Institution, and Tom said, well, remember what happened when Bill Clinton became president. His point is the American people are about to get an extreme illustration of the way government intervention messes things up. Bill Clinton offered only a mild illustration, and yet even under Bill Clinton, it was only 2 years before there was enough of a backlash response, that Republicans took both houses of Congress away, and the man was boxed in from that point forward. That's a pretty optimistic reading of what might happen. In fact,
Very optimistic.
Very optimistic?
Yes, because there is such thing as a point of no return.
Is it? He said this part already, but yeah, it's crazy to wake up and realize who Obama really was. How, in my opinion, he contributed to the destruction of this country. How I feel like growing up, like racism, like people talk about racism a lot, but it wasn't like a big deal. But that Obama type of politics, it brought out like, now everything is extreme. Like if you vote for Trump, you're racist, you're homophobic, you're a bigot. Everybody's like super woke now, and it's like a big divide. I feel like we're almost at a civil war. But it wasn't like that before, like Barack Obama. Like when George Bush won, it was like, oh, they didn't count the votes in Florida, but whatever. People just moved on. But now everything is so fucking like, oh, if Trump win, we gonna die. Come on.
Yeah, it's like the social media and the internet make him like out as a bad person, but then when you actually see what he actually doing, you like, no, he trying to help us for trying to clean up the mess that them niggas Biden Obama for me made.
But this is the thing as well too. Back in the day, people weren't as extreme. Like when George Bush won, people were mad. Like they'll make jokes, poke fun and shit. But now it's like they will beat you up if you vote for Trump, or like if you want some, like, you know what I'm saying? Like niggas is really extreme now.
For no reason.
For no reason. Like people take politics shit to the heart, and like they will attack people. You see they setting the Tesla Jones on fire.
They fucking
breaking people's Cybertruck. It wasn't like that. George Bush won, people were pissed, but nobody was attacking like George Bush supporters. If Al Gore to win, people wasn't gonna attack them or do anything crazy. But now the left has made it so extreme that it's almost like on some blood and Crip type shit. Like it's crazy. But again, if you like these type of reactions, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Help me hit 1K subs. Let us know what we should react to. I'm trying to. My nephew's only 19. I'm poking fun at him, but I'm trying to show him a different side of politics because last year would have been his first election, so we're just trying to show him a different wave and shit. Because we both from Philly, we both grew up in a pretty liberal type family, so I'm just trying to show him a different side of the political aisle. Your boys out. 52.